Hi there again, Year 7s, and let's have a look today at how we can display data in tables. First of all, we're going to look at some data provided by a Year 7 class where we ask them how many pets they had in each household. And you can see here there is a list of what we call raw data. Raw data means it's data that we haven't organised in any way whatsoever. It's quite tricky to really tell what's going on with this data because it isn't organised, so let's look at some ways that we can improve on this situation. One way that we can organise this data is to place it in what we call a frequency distribution table. This table has 3 columns, and those columns are labelled score, tally and frequency. The frequency is the number of times that a piece of data occurs. So if something occurs frequently, then it's happening a lot. Now, as you can see, the little icon up the top says that you should be making a note of this. So pause the video and write this down now, please. Okay, so here's a list of the data up the top here from the previous slide, and we're going to have a look at how to organise this into our frequency distribution table. You can see we've got our 3 columns with headings at the top there, and before I start filling in any information, my first job is to see what sort of data I've got. I've got data that involves numbers from 0 right through to a highest value of 6. So that means my scores down here on the left hand side have to include those numbers, which is what I'm doing now. Okay, now what I'm going to do from now is record each result in the appropriate row. So let's see one way that we can do this. Up here you can see I've got a 0. I'm going to mark that off, and that means I've got a 1 in this row here. A 3 will live down in here, a 1 up in here, and so on. Now again, if you'd like, you can pause the video now and you can have a go at filling in this frequency distribution table yourself, or else you can watch me complete it and see if it makes sense to you. Okay, so there's all my tallies completed. My last job is to fill in the frequency column, which is just adding up all of the tally marks. So we can see here I have used this grouping idea. So once I've got 5, I group them into a bundle with the 5th stick going across so that I can count at a glance that there's 5 here. And I'm going to add them up. 7, 9, 16 plus 5 is 21, 23, 24, 25. It's important that I check this value. Check that there are actually 25 values across here. I'd hate to continue on if I've made a mistake early on. Okay, so there's our frequency distribution table completed. Make sure that yours looks like this before we move on to the next slide. Okay, so here's a smaller copy of that same frequency distribution table. As we can see, it's nice and neatly finished, and now we can use it to answer some questions. So let's have a look over on the right hand side here. Now that we've got our information organised, we can see at a glance how many students were surveyed. It was 25. We can see how many students have less than 3 pets. So that's less than 3 are these ones up here. So we can add those up. 5 and 9 is 14, plus 7 is 21. What fraction of students have at least 3 pets? Now, at least 3 pets means 3 or more pets. So we're looking at all of these ones added together, which is 4, and we're looking for a fraction, so it's out of 25. Our next point, which is the most common number of pets. So I'm looking down here to see which number is the greatest. So the most common number of pets is not 9, it's 1. There were 9 families that had 1 pet. And finally, what percentage of students had no pets? So I'm looking up here. There were 7 out of 25 students who had no pets, and because we've just done our percentages unit, we can turn that quite easily into a fraction out of 100. by doing this, which of course is equal to 28%. So all of these questions were quite easy to answer because we'd organised our data into a frequency distribution table. Now your job again is to write down the questions and these answers into your workbook, please. Questions and answers. Let's do that now. Okay, now sometimes there's going to be situations where we have too many numerical values to list individually in the score column, or the data might be quite varied. So when this happens, we need to break the data up into what we call class intervals. And class intervals are sections, a bit like some of the ones we've got below, where we can see that all of the data between 5 and 9 would fit into this class interval. So an answer of 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 would all end up in this class interval. 10, 11, 12, 13 or 14 would all end up into this class interval, etc. Now this is going to be the last thing that I'm going to ask you to write down, so please pause the video and write down this information on class intervals. Alright, now we're going to use this class interval idea to apply it to the next question. I've got a question which says the data below shows the ages of a number of mobile phone users, and here's all this data. Now you can see there's quite a bit of data there. Remember, you don't need to write this down. We're just looking and listening for now. Alright, so we're going to be asked to draw a frequency table to classify, that means to sort the given data. And we've been told to use a class interval of 10. That is, ages from 11 to 20 will be one class interval. 21 to 30 will be the next class interval, and so on. Alright, so here's our list of data. We're going to now have a look at what that looks like in a frequency distribution table that has class intervals. Alright, so over here on the left you can see we've got our list of class intervals, 11 to 20, 21 to 30. You can see that each class interval holds exactly 10 possible numbers, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They're all the possible values that will live in that first class interval. You can see our tally strokes there, and of course our frequency and our total at the bottom here. Now with this type of table we have lost a little bit of information. For example, from this table it's impossible for us to see exactly how many 17-year-olds, for example, were owners of mobile phones. So we have lost a little bit of specific information, but generally speaking this table now is far more useful for us. Let's have a look at some questions. So again, how many people were surveyed? We can see very quickly and very easily it was 55. Which age group had the largest number of people with mobile phones? So we're looking up here, and the age group is not 19, the age group is 11 to 20-year-olds. Which age group had the least number of people with mobile phones? So we're looking at this category here, which is the over 60s, or I suppose we could be saying the 61 to 70 age group, or as we've called it, over 60. And how many people in the 21 to 30 age group own a mobile phone? So this time we're looking over here and we're heading across and we'll see that it's 15. Very easy to answer these questions once you've got them into a frequency distribution table. Okay, so summing up now, you need to think about 2 or 3 sentences that describe what this video was particularly about. If you've got a question, jot it down now and bring it into your next class for you to discuss with your peers and with your teacher. Bye for now.